did this work? طيب.
Good.
جيد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على الأتمان الأكملان على خير خلق الله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. وبعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Last class that we did from the book of Nawawi, Tahdhib wa Seerah al-Nabawiyyah, we were speaking about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's children, the kids of the Prophet. And we were doing two things. We're on page 41 in the PDF. We were doing two things. The first thing that we were doing was mentioning facts, factual information, numbers, names, places, dates, etc. And secondly, we were mentioning what we get from those names, numbers, dates, and places, those facts. And in my humble opinion, this is a very, very thorough way of learning, studying, and teaching the seerah. For yourself, for your children, and for anyone. And I feel that most people that talk about the seerah, they lack in one of the two styles. Some people, when they talk about seerah or other things, it could be fiqh, it could be aqidah, tafsir, they only deal with just ma'lumat. Prophet had these children, he was born this year, the battle was in this year, these amount of companions died, these companions were martyred, this person did this was this location, Taif, Medina, Makkah, and so on and so forth. That's it, that's the seerah. And it's extremely robotic and mechanical. Aqidah, this is one point, one evidence, that's it. Tafsir, Ibn Abbas said this about the verse, Ibn Jarir said that about the verse, it was sent down in this year, that's it. And then there are others on the other side of the lake, and they don't have enough facts and enough information. And it's just the feel and the mood and the vibe and the emotion and the spirit, and we benefit and heart softening and Allah loves you, and that's it. But there's nothing that's hardcore. There's no hardcore science. There's no facts. There are no facts. There's no real tangible information. And the mixture is the best way. As we say, technicality with spirituality. Spirituality based off of technicality. So the facts, the information, the names, the dates, the points, the verses, the hadiths, the specific factual information, that's the foundation, that's the concrete. And then on top of that, we have to be spiritual. What are we learning from this aqidah point? How does that affect our daily lives? The tafsir, Ibn Abbas said about this verse. Ibn Jarir said this surah was sent down twice. What do we benefit from that in 2019? And the Prophet ﷺ having daughters, having sons, the name of this daughter, the name of that son, he lived, he died. What do we benefit from that? How do we translate into our daily lives the fa'idah of that, the tarbiyah of our children, etc. So this is very important, huh? And alhamdulillah, I feel that this is something which is very old, it's nothing new, but revamping it and introducing it to people who are unaware of it and calling to it and propagating it, alhamdulillah, is something that we take pride in the hadith disciple. It's something that we take pride in, alhamdulillah. Take pride, we boast about the blessing of Allah. Not too many people have this balance, this mixture, and push it like that. Most speakers, you'll find them, either they're too technical and they lack the spiritual aspect, or then you find others who are so spiritual and they lack the technical aspect. And it's based off of something weak or made up or fabricated or something that didn't even exist. Everyone understand this? And it has to be what? It has to be both. It has to be a mixture, a blend. And it always have to be 50-50. It can be 60-40, 75-25, depending on the lecture, depending on the class, depending on the book, depending on the topic, depending on the people that you're dealing with. So therefore, facts without any type of spiritual contact or reminder, tarbiyah, what's the benefit? The tarbiyah, the spirituality that's based off of just thin air, or what you say or feel, or a story that's not even authenticated, what benefit is that? So therefore, the Messenger of Allah, having these children, What do we benefit from that? We explained all of that in our last class. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, فَالْبَنَاتُ أَرْبَعٌ بِلَا خِلَافٍ وَالْبَنُونَ ثَلَاثَةٌ عَلَى الصَّحِيحِ. He says, so therefore, the Prophet had 4 daughters without any discrepancies. Scholars unanimously agree he had 4 daughters. And the Prophet ﷺ had 3 sons, according to the correct view. Meaning some scholars may have said more or less. But the correct way is that he only had 3 sons. 3 sons. وَأَوَّلُ مَنْ وُلِدَ لَهُ الْقَاسِمُ. The first of them was Qasim. He was his firstborn. ثُمَّ زَيْنَبْ. Then Zaynab. ثُمَّ رُقَيَّةَ. Then Ruqayya came. ثُمَّ Kulthum. Then Kulthum came. ثُمَّ Fatima. And then Fatima came. وجاء أن فاطمة رضي الله عنها السن من أم كلثوم. ذكر ذلك علي بن أحمد بن سعيد بن حزم بن محمد الحافظ. ثم في الإسلام عبد الله بمكة. He says, and some scholars hold the view that Fatima is actually older than Kulthum. Some say that Fatima was older than Kulthum. That was mentioned by Ibn Hazm. ثم في الإسلام عبد الله بمكة. And then after the Prophet became the actual Prophet, after Islam, he had Abdullah. And Abdullah was born in Mecca. Meaning that, it says here, that all of these children here, hypothetically speaking, they were born where? Or when or how were they born? If Abdullah came, he says, fil Islam, in Islam, that would mean that those other children were what? Before, based off of that. He says, Thumma Ibrahim bin Medina. Allahu Alam, we're not here to talk about the order. He says, then Ibrahim came in Medina. وَكُلُّهُمْ مِنْ خَدِيجَةَ إِلَّا إِبْرَاهِيمَ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْ مَارِيَةَ الْقِبْطِيَّةِ وَكُلُّهُمْ تُوفُّوا قَبْلَهُ إِلَّا فَاطِمَةَ فَإِنَّ عَاشَتْ بَعْدَهُ 6 أشهر على الأصح الأشهر. He says, and all of these children here, all of them came, he says here, they came from Khadija. Except for Ibrahim, which came from Maria, the Coptic woman. Was Maria radiallahu anha his wife, or other than that? Al-Muhim. He says all of these children died before the Prophet. None of them outlived the Prophet, except for Fatima. And she died 6 months after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as we mentioned in the last class, this goes to show us the concept, one of the main pillars of Shia Islam, or Shiism, not the only pillar, they have other pillars as well. And there are many other differences between them and between the Sunni Muslims, the Orthodox Islam. But one of their main problems that they have with the Sunnis, what they say and tell the people about, but there are other problems that they have, and other major deviating principles. But one of the problems is they say, we don't hate Abu Bakr necessarily, even though they do, but outwardly, no intellectual in his right state of mind is going to proclaim the utmost hatred of a man's best friend. That's just utter stupidity. And it's embarrassing for a non-Muslim to interview them, a reporter, a journalist, and say, what is the problem between Iran and Kuwait? What's the problem between Iran and Saudi Arabia? What's the problem between these Muslims who are called Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims? What is the beef between you guys? Obviously, it's something that they have to say, which is going to seem of some type of level of acceptance to a non-Muslim who's neutral. And many of them, if you read their articles and books and papers or watch their interviews, they'll say, well, you know, we have a few political differences and a few issues, but we believe that the Prophet's bloodline was supposed to have the most right in succession. That's what we believe. And we believe that it's wrong and it's unfair and it's unjust for an outsider and a foreigner, someone who wasn't a blood relative of Muhammad, to be the leader of the Muslims. And the non-Muslim reporter or the person who's watching, listening, says, you know what, that doesn't sound too bad. If you think about it, why not let the son or the grandson or the cousin or the uncle be the successor? That's common sense. The king's son, he deserves to be the king, the prince. He may not be the most suited. He may not be the best, but it's the blood of the king. Bottom line, the emperor's son. Everyone understand this? And that's why you have the different religions and civilizations who have the concept of son of heaven. They believe that it's divinely decreed and mandated for this person to be their leader. He is the king. Whether you're talking about Western Europe in Christianity, or whether you're talking about the Far East in Japan, son of heaven. They believe that it's a divine right to rule. A divine right to rule. And they believe that this king or this emperor or this chieftain, this leader is holy. And it is decreed and mandated by God or the gods or goddesses to be the ruler. Most civilizations were like that. And even to this day, many of them have the same concept. Even they try to modernize it and secularize it. But it's still there. So therefore, no matter who comes, the son is next in line. Period. The son is next in line. The blood has to come next. And this is one of the reasons why many kings and leaders and sultans would have a harem. They would have a harem. They would have a patch of women, a bunch of women. They weren't their wives. They were concubines, right-hand possessions, which they would sleep with. Not just for sexual pleasure. Not saying that wasn't a part of it, but that wasn't the only reason. If you study about the Ottoman Empire, the Sultan, he has several women in his harem. And many people think it was just to please his erotic desires, but that wasn't the case. If you actually read and study and read their books, they'll tell you that the harem of the Sultan was a baby machine. It was a baby factory. It was a factory to produce sons for him and to produce daughters for him because his wife was barren, or his wife is pregnant, or his wife is feeding. And he needed as many sons as possible and needed as many daughters as possible because children die. Now they died, let alone back then. Disease, sickness, life was different. So I need an insurance policy. I need to have not one son, the prince, the next one. No, I need 6 sons in case 2 of them die. Or one of them dies in battle. Or one of them is mentally ill. Or one of them is a total sissy and a wuss. He's a halfwit. He's unfit to lead the empire. So I need 10 sons and 12 daughters. And the moment a concubine would become pregnant with the sultan's son, that was it. He never slept with her again. And in the Far East, in ancient China, the moment a concubine became pregnant with the emperor's son or daughter, she would go into a nunnery. She would become an abbess. She would worship and practice Buddhism for the rest of her life, and no one could ever sleep with her. That was it. So these people, they knew the importance of having children in abundance because of what they believed about rulership and leadership. That they have a divine right to rule. And the only person that's fit to rule is someone of my what? Bloodline. So if you look at history, the other nations, the non-Muslims, and just use your head and you listen to the Shia, you say, you know what? It makes a little sense. Who would be a better leader for the Muslims except for Ahlul Bayt? Makes sense. Hypothetically, it makes sense. It sounds peachy, it does. But when you actually sit down and think about it critically, and base your thinking off of what Allah says, أَأَنْتُمْ أَعْلَمُ عَمِ اللَّهِ. Do you know more or Allah knows more? Allah, the one who gave the human being the ability to have the concept of the bloodline, He took all of the Prophet's sons and daughters away from him except for one. If it was that important and that crucially vital, Allah would have allowed Ibrahim, Abdullah, or Qasim to do what? He would have allowed them, forget having more sons, He would allow them to what? To live. But that's not what Allah did. All of them died except for one. And how long did she live? How long did Fatima rule? She didn't even rule, but she only lived what? 6 months. So there's a serious glitch here. A major problem that Shiites have with Allah. That's the only sum out of the mathematical equation. A major problem that they have with Allah's wisdom. Everyone understand this? Allah, the most merciful, the most wise, the ever aware, He didn't allow the Prophet to have any bloodline or progeny. And even if he was a cousin, or Ali, or Hassan, Hussein, so on and so forth, it's not his direct lineage from his loins. Who will be better, his son or his grandson? Of course, it's supposed to be what? His son. That's not what Allah had decreed for him. To go and show us is that in Al-Islam, Ancient China is one thing. Ancient Japan is one thing. The Zulus and the Cape, the British and France and Italy and Germany, Allah, that's a different story. But in Islam, it's not about blood. It's about who is most suited to lead the Muslims. The best leader for the Muslims. The one who's most fit for the job. And that was no one other than Abu Bakr, who knew the Prophet ﷺ from day one, who was with the Prophet ﷺ from day one, who supported the Messenger of Allah ﷺ from day one. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on about the virtues of Abu Bakr. So they have to try to find a way to get out of the plain manifest stupidity that they're in light or in front of the camera with the non-Muslim. That's the Prophet's best friend, Abu Bakr. Why are you cursing him? Why don't you like his best friend? It's a historical fact that he was with Abu Bakr for the longest, more than Ali. Ali was young in the early days of Islam. It's a historical fact. What's the problem with Abu Bakr? Oh, well, we don't, have that much of a problem with him, but, we just feel that his blood should have been in charge. So they have to make an excuse not to look what? Utterly stupid. Because it doesn't make any sense to claim to love a man and devote yourself to a man's teachings, but you curse his best friend. Make sense? Everybody knows this is not a friend, not an associate, this is my best friend. He comes into your restaurant. Assalamu alaikum. Hey, Sheikh. Yeah, I want to come and pick up the food from Mufti, such and such, and I'm going to order a such and such. And then he says, oh yeah, that's going to cost you $25 with tax, and you have to wait 30 minutes. Who is he really offending? The brother to come pick up the food, or what? He's offending me. He came back, what took you so long? Yeah, man, I didn't have enough money, and I had to wait in for 45 minutes. Why? What happened? Yeah, he told me I had to wait, I had to pay, so on and so forth. I'm going to go, it's like, what's up? You know this? He clearly told you, let alone you know that that's my mom, right? It's disrespect to me now. Let alone him cursing him and reviling him and spewing venom on him. And it's known that that was my best friend. The next step that they make is they say, well, Abu Bakr was a Muslim and a believer and the Prophet's friend, but he apostatized. He left Islam after the Messenger of Allah. And it's a historical fact that many people left Islam after the Messenger died. There were some companions who went to Abyssinia when they made a hijrah and they became Christians. Historical fact. There were some people who went back to Kufr after the Messenger of Allah, and from those people was Abu Bakr and Umar and the rest of those guys. And not only did they leave Islam, but they really didn't like Islam the whole time. They were faking the funk. They were acting like they were Muslims for all of those years to get something from the Messenger of Allah, etc. All right, no problem. So the disrespect has fallen back on who now? Not only Allah, because Allah clearly mentioned, radiallahu anhu wa radwan. He's pleased with them and they are with him. They will go to paradise. They will be in paradise. Would Allah send down a verse about a man and he knows that he's going to die upon kufr? It's disrespect to Allah. But deeper than that, for my best friend, not my close friend, my best top friend, I don't even realize that he doesn't like me. He doesn't like my movement. He doesn't like my religion. He's not really upon my way for me to be with him for 20, 30 something years. That shows a great deal of what? About what? Me. If we were gangsters, if we were in the streets, and my top right-hand man, the top right-hand man, I'm the Don, the second in charge of the family is a Fed. And he's been a Fed for 30 years. And I never saw it or realized it or smelt it. That shows that I'm extremely blind. Extremely blind and oblivious to common sense. You didn't know he was destroying the family the whole time. Something's wrong now. 30 years, 20 years, that's a long time to be with someone. Through thick and thin, day and night. And he's an informant the whole time. And I didn't even know. The people will blame who? Without a question. Without a doubt. No thorough person would be around someone who's a total traitor and not even realize it. So in actuality, the disrespect to Allah and the disrespect to the Messenger of Allah, let alone to the companions, is something that the Shia people cannot escape. They can't get out of. Everyone understand this? And you have to understand it critically like this. It's not just a small, simple issue. It's a means of disrespecting Allah and talking about those companions saying that they left Islam or they didn't really want Islam the whole time. And for argument's sake, what was Abu Bakr in it for? What did Abu Bakr get? Who had more money? Abu Bakr or the Prophet? Abu Bakr. He didn't need any money. How much money did the Prophet leave behind after his succession? How much money did he leave for his wives and the people? He says, إِنَّا مَعَاشِرَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ لَا نُورَثْ مَا تَرَكْنَاهُ صَدَقَةً. He says, us, the prophets, we don't leave, there's no irth, there's no inheritance. What we leave behind is nothing but sadaqah. So the few possessions that the Prophet of Islam had, when he left behind, had to be given out in what? Sadaqah. So what was Abu Bakr in it for? What was he gaining? Why was he a disbeliever and acting to be a believer with the Messenger of Allah for all of those years? What was he getting out of it? Money, power, he could have all the things before Islam. So their whole entire argument, let alone it's against the Quran and the Sunnah, it is against sound common sense. But you could fall victim to it if you allow them to say and spread their lies and to make a romantic story of the Prophet's lineage and his cousin and his grandchildren, and they oppress them and they wrong them. And then the disrespect continues. They turn Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu into this poor weakling of a man. He was oppressed, he was wronged, the companions bullied him, they tricked him, they took the khilafah from him. And that's disrespect to Ali. If there was a man who was related to a man, his cousin, and this man is a great warrior, whether you're talking about a warrior with a shield and a spear, or you're talking about someone who's in the street, a real, actual tough guy, someone not to be played around with, and he knows that his best friend or his uncle or his cousin wanted him to do something, and he deserved it most, do you think he would go without a fight? Do you think he would just lay down his gun and walk away peacefully? My uncle is dead. My cousin is dead. The last thing that I can do for him is preserve what? The family. No one is coming in here and taking this. No, I'm running it. Who are you? That's what Muhammad wanted. That's what? That's what he wanted. How do you know? Because he told me. And it was well known, it was established, I'm his blood, so on and so forth. Even if they kill him, they shoot him. But he's not going out without a what? A serious fight. Because that is his right now. That's his right, let alone the fact that he's going to try to please his what? His past loved one. I have to what? He says on his deathbed, don't let no one take it from you. Spent 30 years building this. We took over this whole entire operation, 30 years. Don't let no one come and take it from you. Nobody. I know Fulan, such and such, he's going to try. This person, you keep it, no matter what you got to do. Don't give it up. So we're not talking about someone who's just a normal person who's going to fight and who's going to try to please his loved one or his relative. But we're talking about someone who's a what? A major cannon, a gun, a warrior. He's not giving it up like that. Unless he's actually a coward. And unless he's actually scared and weak and feeble. And the other companions, they knew they could just do what? Push him over and take it from him. So everything about Ali radiallahu anhu that they say he deserves and deserved, according to their narrative, Abu Bakr, Aisha, this one, that one, they all took it from him. So Ali was just a punk. He's just a pushover. And that's historically inaccurate. Ali radiallahu anhu was one of the bravest warriors, one of the strongest soldiers of the Prophet ﷺ. And that's disrespect to him. So their whole entire argument turns what? Against him. But that's how you have to debate with them, if you're going to debate with them. Not saying to debate with them. You cannot allow them to give their boohoo story. And unfortunately, that's the way of all people of batil. The people of falsehood, no matter where they come from, what they look like, they all want to mention their tragic story and want you to sympathize for them and give them. This happened to us and such happened to us. Okay, what did you do about it? How long ago was that? And why does a people in a country or a town have to pay you money for something that they didn't do? It makes no sense. What are the people here? What did they do to deserve what you're doing to them because of what happened to you 60 years ago in this country? So you have to be mindful of this, okay? People always mentioning these dramatic stories and crying over them and making themselves the victim and then making themselves entitled and deserving things. That's exactly what the Shia did and what they do, and other kuffar as well too. Whether we mention their names or not. How many museums do they have? Talking about this one event in history. How many movies? How many documentaries? How many millions of dollars they get every year for something that they cry and boo-hoo about? You're not the only nation that suffered. You're not the only people that this happened to and that happened to and kicked from their homes and murdered. It happened to all races. Why are you so special? Would you deserve a special spot? And most importantly, what are the people in this country, what did they do? They didn't do that to you. Go back to the place where those acts of atrocity were done to you. So you have to think what? Critically. And never allow someone to attack your emotions with falsehood. Listen carefully. Never allow someone to attack your emotions with falsehood. And we should stop using your brain because of emotions. So the Shia, if they only would, the Rafida, just sit down and just think about this. All of the Prophet's children died except for one. And she died right after him. If the succession of blood was so vitally crucial, why would Allah allow that to happen? I would understand this. Even if just one of his sons remained alive, just one, that would have been sufficient. But all of them died. And none of them lived after him except for Fatima for 6 months. Moving forward. The next chapter, Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, Faslun a'mamuhu wa ammatuhu. He now mentions the aunts and the uncles of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The aunts and the uncles. The aunts and the uncles. Now it says here, it doesn't mention the akhwal and the khalat. Alright? And we know in Arabic, the word am or amma, it means an uncle or aunt from the father's side. And khal or khala is the uncle or the aunt from the opposite, paternal, maternal, etc. He doesn't mention here a separate chapter on khal. He says, amamuhu ahad ashar. He says he has 10, or he says 11 uncles. 11 uncles. 11 uncles the Prophet had, he says here. أحدهم الحارث وهو أكبر أولاد عبد المطلب وبه كان يكنى. The first of them was Harith. And he was the oldest of Abdul Muttalib's sons. The oldest of Abdul Muttalib's sons. And that was the kunya of Abdul Muttalib. His kunya was Abu Harith. Abu Harith. Well, Quthum, number 2, Quthum, was Zubayr, wa Hamza, wa Abbas, wa Abu Talib, wa Abu Lahab, wa Abdul Ka'bah, wa Hajjal, biha'in muhmalatin maftuha, thumma jimin sakinatin, wa Dirar, wal Ghidaq. He says the 11 uncles of the Prophet ﷺ, Harith, Quthum, Zubayr, Hamza, Abbas, Abu Talib, Abu Lahab, Abdul Ka'bah, Hajjal, Dirar, and Ghidaq. Aslama minhum Hamza wal Abbas. And only 2 of them accepted Islam. Only 2 of them became Muslims. And we know that they were Hamza and Al-Abbas. Hamza and Al-Abbas. Once again, this goes to show us the true connection is not through blood and DNA. The true real connection is through Iman, faith, and belief. The Prophet ﷺ's own family, how many of them accepted Islam? 2 out of 11 is not a strong ratio. It's not a what? It's not a high percentage at all. That means 9 of them didn't accept. 9 of them weren't made to be Muslim. Only 2 of them. I understand this? And there's a wisdom why Allah made only what? Only 2 of them, and not all 11. So the Muslims today, unfortunately, they get extremely caught up on blood, and extremely caught up on race, and extremely caught up on tribe, and extremely caught up on section and area. And this is one of the tricks and the tools that the non-Muslims have used to keep us back. To keep us back, unfortunately. Is race, is blood, tribe, location, these things, are they not important? Yes, they have a place. No doubt. Your family is always your family, your blood. Your family who are Muslims, no doubt. Your Muslim family members who are righteous and pious, no doubt. People in your area, you're mindful of them. They have rights over you, no doubt about that. You naturally feel more comfortable in your hometown. You naturally like the foods of your home country. There's nothing wrong with that. finding a role model in someone who's similar to you. This person's knowledgeable and studious, so on and so forth, and he's from this country, in this race, in this age. And there's another person who's knowledgeable and studious, and he's from my country, and similar age, and his skin looks like mine. Hypothetically speaking, we said, you're going to feel naturally more inclined, or you feel like you have a closer chance of becoming that person, or like that person, when that's similar to you. Because he has a similar lifestyle, a similar background, similar odds, pros and cons, advantages. It's common sense. No one is going to deny that unless they're a fool. Unless they're a fool. And say that these things mean nothing. But the problem is that they don't mean everything. And would you reject a thorough good person because he's not from your race, or your lineage, or your background, or your area? That's the problem. And the second problem, obviously, they're both in one area, one section, is you accept someone who is messed up, who lacks thoroughness, because they're from your section. And perhaps that's even worse. You turn a blind eye to the deficiency in this person because he's from your town, or your race, or your age. And you turn away someone who has those good qualities because he doesn't share them. That's the problem. And that's the concept of Jahiliyyah. That's from the concepts of a Jahiliyyah. It doesn't matter where he's from us, my age, my race, my area. It doesn't matter where you're from, you're not from where I'm from. So therefore, I can't help you and I don't welcome you. And we explained this before. You have a masjid in which 90% of the people in the masjid all speak Cantonese. You're not going to give the khutbah in Turkish. You're not going to talk about things that just pertain to Turkish Muslims. You're not going to give a history of Turkey. You're not going to just keep going on talking over and over and over about life in Turkey. And these people here speak a language. They come from China. You have to look to the needs of the people in your masjid, the majority. No doubt about that. You have to be mindful of their needs. But at the same time, a Turkish Muslim comes into your masjid. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Can I pray here? I want to make iftar. I'm looking for a wife. I'm looking for a job. Can I study with you? No. Only Chinese Muslims are welcome here. No. Say, marhaba. You're welcome. You're our brother. We speak a language. You speak a language. We have a pigmentation of skin color, and so do you. But you're a good Muslim. You're trying to do the right thing. You're trying to be with us. There's no doubt about that. Please excuse me. I have to talk to these Muslims over here about some issues, people who come from China. And as soon as I'm done with that, then we'll talk and we'll have our class. Everyone understand this? So there are many masjids like that, in which the majority of the orientation is a race, or an age, or a class. It don't have to be a race, it could be a class. Doctors, white-collar professionals. And they don't welcome people that aren't white-collar professionals. Brothers who work construction, plumbers, police officers, whatever they are, they're not welcome in our masjid. And obviously not too many people make that statement with their tongue. But their actions prove that you're not welcome in the masjid. You come to the masjid, everyone's looking at you and staring at you. You ask where the wudu station is, no one talks to you. You say, assalamu alaikum. They barely say it back. And all types of other horrible things that many Muslims do when someone is not from their specific orientation. And then once again, it's not just about race. It can be age. You can go to a masjid, you're young, and the people are old. It could be profession, how you're dressed. You come in wearing Carhartts and overall. You work on the streets, you work as a carpenter, you're a painter. And the masjid is full of doctors and engineers. And they'll look at you a certain way. Then of course, when I give my zakat class, I want to focus on the zakat of the what? Of the people, the doctors. Most people are white-collar professionals here. How to pay zakat, so on and so forth. But the brother who's a plumber, or the brother who sells oils, or the brother who has no job, it doesn't mean that I ignore them and don't show them any love and attention and respect. That's the balance or lack of balance. Everyone understand this? We have needs. The majority of people in this masjid right now are black. But it doesn't mean if a white brother comes in or a Hispanic brother comes in that he's not welcome in our masjid. And we treat him like an outsider. And we treat him like a stray dog on the porch. No. Everyone understand this? So you have to be mindful of these things. But blood doesn't mean everything. Race doesn't mean everything. You may have someone who respects you more, who loves you more, who studies with you more, who's not from your race, who's not from your bloodline. And the companions, most of them weren't from the Prophet's bloodline. And he had 11 uncles, and only 2 of them accepted Islam. That is the biggest proof and evidence for what we're trying to say. So those were the only 2 people who accepted Islam from his uncles. وكان حمزة أصغرهم سنا لأنه رضيع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. ثم العباس قريب منه في السن والذي كان يلي زمزم بعد أبيه عبد المطلب وكان أكبر سنا من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ب3 سنين. طيب. He then speaks on the age of Hamza, him being the youngest, and then Abbas being close to him, and some of the things that he did in his status and Al-Jahiliyyah. We all know the importance of that with regards to Hamza's status and Abbas's status. And Hamza, like Umar radiallahu anhu and others, were some of the tough guys of Islam. Some of the muscle. When they became a Muslim, they accepted Islam, it supported the Prophet and the companions. And it gave them more comfort, more strength, and more confidence. That's a very important lesson, as we've explained in many lectures before. The importance of tough guys in Islam. The importance of muscle in Islam. The Muslims are not to be weak, spiritually, emotionally, financially, mentally, nor physically. Muslims are supposed to be tough. That doesn't mean that they have to make transgression against people, but they're supposed to be tough. And that's one of the greatest deterrents for problems, is people not thinking about oppressing you and wronging you. Because of, just look at this brother, or this, I don't want no problem with him. I don't want no problem with the Muslims. We're neighbors, what's up? All right, yeah, you know, have a good one. But I don't want what? No problem. You have your way, we have our way. We can all get along. You're non-Muslim, you live next to the masjid, you're welcome. You want to get some food, we're having some food, you're welcome. No, you're our neighbor. Your car broke down, you need help, you lost your keys, we're neighbors. But don't come past the masjid smoking or drinking or whistling at a sister. No. You don't want to do that. That's a bad decision. You're drunk one night, you pull over, don't urinate on the wall of the masjid. You don't want to do that. Let alone curse at a Muslim, let alone pull out a gun on a Muslim, let alone walk into a masjid, wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah, and literally go like you're exterminating termites, waliyadu billah, and walk from room to room and reload like it's a game looking for Muslims to shoot. Unbelievable. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Literally beyond belief. Literally beyond belief. Unbelievable. And that's sad. So Hamza radiallahu anhu and other companions, they helped out. And this goes to teach us another lesson with regards to tarbiyah and dawah. And that is, everybody has to play their role and their contribution. Everyone is not going to be a scholar. And we don't need everyone to be a scholar. Everyone is not going to be a tough guy. And we don't need everyone what? To be a tough guy. Everyone is not going to be a person of finance, a mover, a shaker, a thinker, a planner, an organizer. And there's some of us who we're just normal soldiers, ants in a colony. We don't have to do nothing special and super. Come, pray, give sadaqah, maintain the masjid, help out. Everyone is not going to be of a special position and power and status. But everyone must contribute. And the most important thing on the mind and in the heads of each and every single ant is the colony. That's it. The benefit of the community before the benefit of myself. What's good for the masjid? What's good for the city? What's good for the town? Instead of what's good just for me. So we have to get out of this selfish, stingy, individual ideology that many of us suffer from. So Hamza radiallahu anhu, when he became a Muslim, it was, along with Umar radiallahu anhu and other companions, it was a great boost to the morale of the Muslims. And unfortunately, we live in a time in which it's a crime to practice and uphold the concept of self-defense. It's a crime for you to want to protect yourself and for you to be strong and independent. That's a crime. You're a threat. And that's a problem. And we've become lax. And we begin to sit back and think it's all right to just be weak and to just be under the protection of this person and that person. Serious problem that we have to wake up. We have to snap out of that dream, okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sure knows best. Khairan, inshallah. We'll stop here tonight. And be in the next class, we'll finish. We'll leave some time for some questions before Salatul Isha or after Salatul Isha. And with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all success. Any sisters here or brothers who have questions from the masjid or the center? Tayyib. Tayyib. If there's any questions, please ask the way you feel comfortable. Then we'll write it down on a piece of paper, inshallah. Question says, what's the ruling on clapping, snapping, whistling, and yawning? Is it okay to clap for a small kid to show encouragement? And what's the link to the PDF? Like, clapping is one thing, yawning is one thing. There's text for clapping and for yawning in the Quran and or the Sunnah. Verses in the Quran and Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ with regards to those two concepts, clapping or yawning, and or yawning. As far as snapping or whistling, then I myself, in my limited knowledge, don't know of an authentic Hadith about the two. I don't know anything in the Quran with regards to snapping. As far as whistling, then people, they may say, let's just break this down with the time that we have. First and foremost is, let's make a difference between a clap. You can clap with your hands, or you can clap on your leg like that. Hit your thigh. What's meant by that hadith? إِنَّمَا التَّصْفِيقُ لِلنِّسَاءِ. That tasfiq is for women when the imam makes a mistake in the salah. Is he talking about clapping the hand, or the women in the salah doing that? Surah Al-Anfal, the 8th chapter of the Quran, Allah, He speaks about the mushrikeen. And when they were custodians of the Kaaba, and in charge of the Kaaba, and the different types of desecration that they did to the Kaaba, such as the idols, and the images of Ibrahim and Ismail, and then making tawaf being naked. And Allah also mentions about certain things that they did. وَمَا كَانَ صَلَاتُهُمْ عِنْدَ الْبَيْتِ. Allah says, in their prayer at the sacred house was nothing more than what? What does Allah Azza wa Jalla say? He says that it's nothing more than what? Clapping and what? Are we familiar with this verse or not? You gotta be familiar with the verse if you read the whole Quran, even in English. Huh? Right? If you read the whole Quran in English, if you read it every single month, you should be what? You should at least be familiar with it. Everyone understand this? At the end of the day, keep things simple. Clapping should be avoided. It should be avoided. It should not be done. And the ulama of Islam, they've mentioned with regards to the concept of clapping, and that it shouldn't be done. Yawning, the Prophet ﷺ tells us not to allow our mouths to be open too much. فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَدْخُلُ, the narration says. So you should try to suppress the yawn, cover your yawn. And the ulama of Islam, they say that this hadith means one of two things. First and foremost is, when a person yawns, the shaitan or a shaitan can enter his body. Literally meaning that. And others, they say, if it means that, it doesn't negate the fact that sleep, laziness, lethargy, drowsiness is something which is going to be beloved to the shaitan. And when the Muslim is up, he should be as energized and invigorated as possible. Time to go to sleep, different story. Rest your body. But when you're up, yawning and being lazy and allowing the laziness to come and sit and settle, it's something that the shaitan likes. And the believer should stay away from. That's from the shah of that hadith with regards to yawning. That's in brief. Snapping, whistling, even if it's not mansus alayh, specifically mentioned in direct text, perhaps it could be similar to clapping. So those things should be avoided. If there is some type of performance or show for children, say Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah, congratulations, great job. Things like this. All right? That's the best thing to do. That's the best thing to do. Wallahu a'lam. As far as the link to the PDF, then inshallah ta'ala, I'll share the PDF with Imam Abu Sajid, and he'll send it out in the mailing list, inshallah ta'ala. Wallahu a'lam. That's in brief. Any other questions before we move forward? Further, Sheikh. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you.
On the Shia issue, going back a little bit, so a little old head on y'all. I found that they exaggerate a lot on Ali, radiallahu anhu, and how I learned that being younger and working in the Navy Yard. He gave me a book about this bit, and I read half of it. And I was running around the Yato, how bad Ali is, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And Abdul Shaheed told me to throw that book away because it was exaggeration. Ali was a warrior, but they had him killing like 500 people at one time by himself, and that's why he told me to exaggerate and throw that book away. You want to expand on that a little bit? Like it's the opposite of what you were saying, but they exaggerated later on. And I got cool.
A faida from our brother, one of the old heads. Allah bless him, preserve you, keep you firm. With regards to Ali radiallahu anhu and the view of the Shia or the Rafida and what they say about him with regards to exaggerations, the opposite of what we're saying of them actually making him look like some type of punk. All right? But in actuality, Sheikh, it's the same. And that's because someone who's truly great needs no exaggeration. Someone who's truly great needs no exaggeration. There's no hype needed. There's no what? There's no hype needed. Now, let's make an example of this. I was in a barbershop this morning, and they were watching television. And there was some type of sports show. And they had the people arguing and fighting, talking about basketball, so on and so forth. Then they started talking about football. And on the television came up the Cleveland Browns. So those who know anything about American football know what I'm talking about. So they were talking about how they have this quarterback, he did this last year, he was a rookie, they have this draft pick, they have this person, this one on the coaching staff. Next year, the Cleveland Browns are going to do something serious. Last year, they went from being a totally losing team, and they were plagued for years. Anyone knows anything about American football? It's been years since the Cleveland Browns were anything like, serious, right? People from Philly, you can relate to this. But the difference between Philly and Cleveland is that,
Can't relate to that.
To an extent you can. The Eagles, for many years, we're in 2019, for many years, have generally been a serious playoff contender for years. Went to the Super Bowl with McNabb, NFC Championship, divisional round, wild card, the Dallas era in the 90s, pretty much. Cunningham, off and on. But whether you like it or not, the Eagles have been plagued. They've never won a Super Bowl. Jaworski backing them, the Eagles been plagued. And the fans have been disappointed for years. And the diehard fans, they stuck with them, and we know what happened a couple years ago. And that epic game in which they won. But the Cleveland Browns, for many years, and subhanAllah, is deep, the colors that he's wearing. Wallahi, that's not why I brought it up. It's not why I brought it up. He's wearing orange and brown. Wallahi, that's not. For many years, they've been 0-16, 2-14, 1-15 for years. So they're going on and talking about how good they're going to be next year, how good they're going to be next year. Now listen here, it's very important. It's very important. And then they put up a sign, or they put up the caption that came up, are the Browns overhyped? Are they overhyped? So one analyst was saying, yes, they're overhyped. The next year, they're going to lose more games. They're going to be bums. The quarterback is going to get hurt. He's going to throw interceptions. And the curse is not going to be broken. And another analyst, he says, no, it's not a hype. These are the numbers. These are the statistics. These are their draft picks. These are their players. Next year, they're going to be a serious team. The Ravens are doing bad. Pittsburgh Steelers doing bad. This team they're going to move up. And the hierarchy of the teams in that division. What's the point I'm trying to get to? Do you think those analysts would sit down on the television screen and have that same debate about the New England Patriots? Are they overhyped or not? They cheat, they do this, Belichick's a cheater, Brady's this, Robert Kraft is that, but no one is going to sit down and debate over the fact, are they overhyped or not? They're just not going to do that. He's really not that good of a quarterback. He's really not that good of a player, but just look. They've dominated for how many years now? The 49ers, the Cowboys, all of those dynasties are dwarfed by the Patriots. Dwarfed. They don't even come up in the same category anymore. So no one needs to hype up the what? Patriots, because they're what? The real thing. Whether you like them or not. But the proof is where? In the pudding. So I'm trying to make a tremendous point here of wisdom. Is that someone who's true to a thing, someone who really has a thing, he never needs to be what? Hyped up. Understand this? He never needs to be hyped up. So in actuality, it's still disrespect to Ali. Because when you exaggerate so much, and you put so much superstition, and so much nonsense and folklore behind a man's legacy, it's really in actuality hiding what? Something. It's hiding something. You really ain't built like that. All of that stuff is exaggeration. But you never know when exaggerates about a true champion. The statistics show it. It's proof. Everyone is consensus. This person was a great person, a great player. So no hype needed. So they still are what? Disrespecting him. By adding that nonsense to his name and to his legacy. Everyone understand the wisdom I'm trying to get to? About the Browns? The only reason why they're arguing over they hyped up or not is because it's a big possibility that it's what? That it is hype. Everyone understand this? It's a big possibility that it's what? That it's hype. That's why they're actually having the debate. Clear? So the Shia, if you look at what they say about Ali radiallahu anhu, it just doesn't make any sense. If he's such a virtuous person, which he was, but to the extent of what you're saying, there's no need to bring up these lies and these fake, false hadiths and stories that he killed 500 people in the well with the tip of his sword and then came out the well. Doesn't need that. Let alone the fact that the Prophet ﷺ, without a doubt, was better than Ali. How many times was the Prophet wounded? Did the Prophet lose a battle? Did the Prophet ﷺ become injured? Did he kill 500 people with the tip of his sword? Which goes to show you that it's a deeper concept than Ali versus Abu Bakr and the rest of the companions. But they have a deeply rooted problem. And that is al-kufru billah. Disbelief in Allah. Deep down inside. Now this doesn't mean that we're making takfir on every single person who says they're Shiite. Doesn't mean that. Of course there's detail. There's detail. The different denominations of the Shia. The general people, the callers. But the general concept of that based off of kufr. Everyone understand this? And Allah knows best. Any other questions? Fadl Sheikh.
Concerning the angel of death, is there just one angel of death that takes all the souls, or does every individual have an angel of death that takes his or her soul?
The question is concerning the angel of death. Is there only one, or are there more? And does each and every person have his or her own angel of death? Tell you, when we talk about the angels, we have to look at the whole entire Quran and all of the hadiths together. So some verses show or prove or we understand, or some hadiths, that it's one angel that came to this prophet and one angel who took this person's soul. But we look at other verses, another hadiths, it's mentioned in a plural sense. Tawaffat rusuluna, our messengers give him death, take their souls. وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا. So therefore, an angel of death, the angels of death, you have to understand that the word could be interchangeable, but the concept without a doubt is that there's several angels who do what? Take souls. Everyone understand this? Who do what? Who take souls. Clear on this? And the same applies to other aspects and other concepts, all right? Messengers, angels who bring down information, angels who look after the rain. It doesn't mean there aren't other angels just because there's one angel who's in charge of that. Just like human beings. You understand this? This is a general. And under that general, and what? people that he delegates tasks to. But it's his army. Everyone understand this? What happened now? Clear on that shit? And Allah knows best. That's in brief. Okay, inshallah, any other questions, brothers? Fadal akhi.
What do you think the solution is for the, to draw like Muslim youth towards the masjid, different Islamic events, or just practicing in their day-to-day life?
What's the solution with regards to Muslim youth? Bringing them to the masjid, keeping them in the masjid, making programs for them, keeping them practicing, so on and so forth. Very important question. It's not just one solution. There are many, many, many different ingredients. And many of those ingredients and strategies and tactics we've spoken on in many khutbahs and classes about the youth. About the youth. Today's khutbah was talking about video games. The good and the bad of video games. The good and the bad. And one thing that I didn't have enough time to mention, and I wish I would have mentioned, is that from the virtues of video games, is that a video game could be a bridge or link between you and your son, or you and your stepson or daughter. You guys can't talk about religion. He doesn't want to go to the masjid, whatever the problem is. But maybe you sit down and play the game with him. Come into his world. Humble yourself. Now, you have to play a video game that's haram, which is nudity and this and that. Didn't say that. Play a video game for 10 hours, miss salat. Didn't say that. But just the sheer fact of you sitting down and coming on neutral ground and humbling yourself. All right? So the concept of the youth is never just one solution, because there's different type of youth. Some youth need to be reminded, and that's it. They all need to be reminded. Some youth need to be scolded. Some need to be disciplined. Some need to be loved. Some need to feel welcome. And oftentimes the youth, they don't feel welcome in a place. And it's no strange thing. As soon as you walk into the masjid, you forget something. Older brother hollering at him. Don't be quiet. You're making too much noise. Sit down. Sit still. And then you wonder why they don't want to come to the masjid. Okay? Or young brothers, they may try to do something. Call the adhan or sweep the floor. And they say, no, you sit down. We got it. We're in charge. It's one of the biggest problems that the older Muslims have, is that they just cling and clutch on to everything. And unfortunately, the Muslims, they run masjids like countries. They look at a masjid as a country in which they're fighting over power, who's in charge. They have egos, and they're outdated. Some of the older brothers, there's no disrespect to no one, but it's the truth. Some of them are outdated. Khalas, Sheikh, Jazakallah khairan. You had your run. But it's 2019, it's not 1984 anymore. It's a whole new generation. The younger brother is the one who's supposed to do the khutbah. Relax, Sheikh. Sit down, have some tea, some biscuits. Enjoy your old life with your grandchildren. Khalas. You did your work. May Allah bless you. We're grateful. But not anymore. Or the adhan, or the politics, or whatever needs to be done and maintained in the masjid in the center. But they don't allow the young brother to get a foot because they're stuck on their egos and their control. So there's a big problem that the Muslims have. So it depends on the youth. I would humbly say the youth should feel welcome in the masjid. We encourage you to come to the masjid. We make programs just for you, activities just for you, fun events just for you. And as I said in the khutbah today, and Allah is my witness, I say this to you all the time, you are the future, whether you realize it or not. You're the imam of tomorrow. Whether you want to accept it or not, whether you realize it or not, you don't understand your importance yet. But you got to start thinking about it now. So we have to push the youth, encourage them, welcome them, give them a push in the back, a pat on the back, and not throw them down the steps, shoving them in the back. So oftentimes, many masjids, that's how it is. They don't welcome the youth. They don't make it comfortable for the youth. They may even look down upon the youth. They may even have jealousy for the youth. All right? Unfortunately. So it depends on the child. And obviously the house is a big part of the problem. What is the child learning in his house? What type of relationship does he have with his father or stepfather, mother or stepmother, aunts, uncles? It's a big problem. It's a big problem. But imams of the masjid, leaders of the community, sisters in the masjid, they have a big responsibility. And more programs need to be made just for the youth. Lectures, basketball tournaments, game nights, or whatever, as long as it's halal. And as long as it's nothing, that's haram. You see what I'm saying to you? And at the end of the day, the sad reality is all of the Muslim youth are not going to do the right thing. We have to get out of that dream world. Many people, they think that all of the youth are going to be pious just because we have pizza and video games at the masjid. I don't mean that. Unfortunately, some youth are destined to do the wrong thing. And that's a reality of life. Destined to be delinquent. Destined to get caught up. The qadr of Allah. But we try our best because we don't know the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But everyone can't be saved. It's the bitter reality because all human beings that are old and mature, they ain't doing the right thing. Older brothers that are lost. Older people that are totally drowned in sin or bid'ah or misguidance. Or the other billah. So that's the sunnah of Allah. But we have to try our best to save the youth, encourage them to do the right thing, and to welcome them in their different needs. So what we talk about in the class, the khutbah, how we behave with them, what programs we make for them, we have to think about the youth. And a person wouldn't be far-fetched if he said that should be the main focus of the masjid in 2019. The older people, they need time and attention. The elders, senior citizens, women's classes. But the largest slice of the pie chart is for the youth. 60%. 45% and the other slices are 10, 5, 8. But the biggest should be to focus on the what? On the Muslim youth. So that's my humble advice, and Allah knows best. Any other questions, brothers? Father Sheikh.
To piggyback on what you said and help this brother out. These brothers here are some old heads. These young brothers, Mufti, Sajid, Ali, Okasa, these are the young people. Us old heads, I find out the youth are getting tired of them old cookbars, saying the same thing over there. These brothers is bringing fresh air, especially for it out there. You know, you got me hyped back up. I'm 65. I feel like I'm 22 again. You know, but that'll help to bring these young brothers to hear these brothers in their lectures and stuff. Because, like I say, by experience, the old heads, they stuck in one thing. And I just know some old heads get tired of hearing the same dry cookbars. You know, start from off, you might feel me, but
it's reality.
Yeah, sorry. Alhamdulillah, because we gotta.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. He said, oh, some people are tired of hearing the same old stale information. The same old crusty expiration date. There's a reality. And obviously oftentimes the truth hurts. That's why we live in fantasy worlds. Because the truth sometimes is just too painful to accept. It hurts to accept the reality, but the truth has to be said. And oftentimes, some people, they just keep talking about the same thing or in the same way. And obviously, and I'm not talking about nobody specifically, the khutbah, your skills as a khatib from the get-go was what? It was messed up. You was whack from day one. Let alone you've been doing it for 30 years. It's real. Mick, you want me to put sugar, ice in it, or what? This is reality. From day one, you was what? He's what? It's reality. It's a sad reality. There's some people that are leaders of masjids or communities, they were never speakers from the get-go. The imam of this masjid was the imam because he had the most money, or he was the toughest person, or he was the leader, or whatever. He was never knowledgeable and learning, let alone actual what? Speaker. So your orating, your skills 25 years ago was what? Flawed at best. Instead of whack. That's a more politically correct term. They were what? They were what? They were flawed. 25 years later, 30 years later, however long a person is doing it, if they weren't trying to practice and get better and improve, it's going to be even what? Whacker. And it's now outdated. On top of it being what? Whack. Whacker, huh? No doubt. Everyone understand this? So that's the reality, man. And sometimes, some young brothers, they may come to the masjid, they may hear the same stuff, and like you said, they get tired of it. It's boring. The same 45-minute khutbah over and over again, redundant, stuttering over the same verses, reading from the same highlighted paper. The Holy Quran with the 1,000 what? Bookmarks in it. Come on, act like you don't remember that. I was sad to act like you don't remember. You bring the what? With the quilt on the outside and what? 1,000 bookmarks and the whole khutbah, he's reading from it with glasses for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, not saying a bunch of what? It's reality. That's why I said it's time to what? No disrespect, Sheikh Jazakallah khairan. But we got Brother Yasser. He's young, fresh. Give him your experience and let him do it. He got more energy, let alone the fact that he studied, he memorized the Quran, he speaks Arabic, and the youth can look at him like, dang, he look like me. And alhamdulillah, this is something that we get all the time. Many people, an Egyptian guy today, after khutbah, I never met him in my life. He said, I want to bring my children here. I want my children to be like you. Because they can see and say, my children can what? They can relate to you. And they may not necessarily be able to relate to someone who's old, let alone if he's old and what, Mick? And whack. And it don't mean just because you're old, you're whack. And just because you're young, you're good. Doesn't mean that. You understand this? Wallahu a'lam. May Allah guide all of you. Ameen. La. Nah, yeah, I said no. Further shit.
The 4 sacred months, Allah says fighting is prohibited.
Okay.
In these sacred months. Dhul Qadr, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram.
Okay.
To and from the Hajj. Rajab. What makes that a sacred month where there's no fighting? Because Rajab is not in the Hajj. It's not in the Hajj season.
Clear.
Dhul Qadr and Muharram.
What time is the adhan, Sheikh?
Whenever you get done.
Talk, let's make the adhan now, inshallah. And we'll answer the question bid'an ta'ala. Either before the iqamah, I don't think we're going to do it after Isha because it's already late, but we have some online. After Isha. Tayyib, Sheikh? Inshallah. And we'll take maybe like 5 or 10 questions briefly online after your question, okay, Sheikh?
Okay.
Inshallah.